Welcome to Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, the podcast dedicated to helping you tackle the challenges of parenting teenagers without the drama. I'm your host, Dr. Cam. Let's get on with the show. Hey, it's Dr. Cam, and today we're tackling one of the hardest but extremely important conversations you can have with your teen: porn and phones. So here's the truth. If you don't talk to them about it, the internet certainly will, and maybe their friends and the kids on the bus. That's why I'm thrilled to have Greta Eskridge with me today. Greta is the host of the Greta Eskridge podcast, an author, speaker, and a mom of four. She's passionate about helping families fight pornography, preserve childhood, and create real connection through honest, courageous conversations. But before we dive in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss these critical conversations. And if you found the show helpful, leave a quick review. It's the best way you can help other parents find the support they need too. Okay, let's get into it. Greta, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Yeah, so I always ask, what got you interested in helping teens in pornography? That's a big topic.
Well, I will start by saying it's never something I imagined would be a passion of mine.
You weren't five and going, hey, I want to. Yeah.
Nope, definitely not. I mean, I wasn't 30 and saying, I want to talk about porn. To be honest, the passion came from a place of hurt in my own life, and a lot of grief, but then a lot of healing. And so I was thrust into the world of understanding the damage pornography can do when it impacted my marriage. I saw my husband walk through pornography addiction, which resulted in infidelity, and us not just repairing our marriage, but each one of us repairing ourselves. And that really opened my eyes to a world I knew nothing about. I grew up really sheltered, in a good way. Like, it was not something bad. It was a gift. But the result was I had no idea about this dark and dangerous world. And at the time, we had 4 young kids, and it was just such an eye-opener of, well, how will we help them choose a different path, a better path? And that started my journey, and it's only grown since then.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and unfortunately, it is a prominent topic. I remember talking to middle schoolers, and this was several years ago too, when social media still wasn't like the hugest thing like it is now, and all of them were surprised that I was surprised that they had all encountered porn on the bus, and they said it's every day. And if the boys don't look at it, the other boys tease them. They make the girls look at it as like a joke or whatever, but it is everywhere. And I think I just remember when I was in middle school, I remember seeing porn. I found magazines in my treehouse, and we were fascinated by it. So I think there's a fascination that we're drawn to it, which means we can't just say, it's bad, don't do it. That's not working.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Let's talk about first, because porn's been around forever. It's not going anywhere. It's just getting more easier to access, unfortunately. So let's talk about first, what are kids' fascination and the draw towards porn, so we understand the why, first of all.
Well, I don't think it's surprising that anyone would be interested in pornography, because we are sexual beings and our sexuality is not wrong. We were created with a sexual drive. We were created to connect sexually, right? Like, that is part of who we are. And so, of course, there is a fascination of, whoa, I am seeing something that I have never seen before, and I'm having a biological response in my body and in my brain, and I don't even know what's going on, but I am interested. And then from that moment, a whole host of things could happen. A child or a teen could feel shame for what they feel. They could feel scared. They could feel excited. And if they have nobody to talk to about it, they don't know what to do with any of those feelings. And so instead of it being an opportunity to have a great conversation with their parent or somebody else that's, a knowledgeable adult that they could trust, a lot of times they're just left to navigate it by themselves. And so I think the number one thing as parents is we need to say, it's not surprising that they would be like, they would have an interest in what they see. Of course, that's absolutely natural. It's what they do with it after that we really need to help them with.
Yeah, I think it's just important to start first of all with if your child stumbles upon porn or is even now choosing to see porn, that doesn't make them a criminal. It doesn't make them like have they're not addicted to it at this point, right? They're
Exactly.
curious. They are naturally biologically curious. There's no shame in that. And I think
Right.
that's the first thing. So talk about a little bit what parents think and kind of what those fears are when they find out, oh my gosh. And I talk to a lot of parents that find out because they see it in the results, right? They go back in the history and they're like, what? And they freak out.
Mm-hmm.
What is going through our head? What is that fear?
Well, I think the fear most often comes from their own story, right? Their own hurt, their own baggage with pornography. Maybe they encountered it as a kid or a teen and, they had nobody to talk to and it gave them feelings of shame or fear or sadness or curiosity. Or maybe they've been hurt by pornography in some way personally. Maybe they're dealing with it in their marriage or in their own life. So a lot of times it's all of our own feelings that rush to the surface when we see our child or learn our child has been exposed to porn or is looking at porn. And that's what we react out of. Where if we can instead set those feelings aside for a minute and say, that's not their story, that's my story. And I'm going to deal with their story this moment right now and deal with it not out of my fear or my own anger or sadness or trauma, but instead with compassion and grace and understanding and just using it as an opportunity for education. Like that is a game changer.
Yeah.
But it's a lot and it requires so much, I think, pre-work with ourselves before we even get to the point of, oh, I found porn on my kid's device or they come to me. Like if we can do that work ahead of time, it can really help us in that moment when the discovery occurs.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that, what that is. I first want to dive into if we don't do that work and we react. And some of us kind of think, oh, well, my kid won't look at it. And yeah, they will.
Every kid's going to see porn.
They are going to see it. Like we need to just assume that, right? Not that they're not. No matter how many times, even if you don't let them have a phone, everyone around them has them, they're going to see it. So if we don't prepare and we react, what happens? Like what is that cycle? What does that look like?
Well, speaking from a person who has overreacted as a parent many times, I will say it's going to happen to all of us. And in that moment, if we react out of our own, stuff, we're not going to be, like I said, dealing with the kid's story. We're dealing with our story. And there's a greater chance that we're going to make them feel ashamed, make them feel afraid, shut them down. They don't want to talk to us about it. They feel bad. They feel embarrassed. And so it's going to make it harder to keep communicating about this. But I will say that if that's been the case, if that's happened, it's not the end of the story. The story's never over because we always have a chance to go back and repair and to say, hey, sweetheart, you know what? I handled that so badly and I'm so sorry. I was scared, frustrated, worried, hurt. And be really honest, especially with teens, man, they can handle it and they need us to be honest. They want us to be honest. And if we can go back and do that repair and say, this is why I reacted this way and I want to help you. I don't want to shame you. I don't want you, this to be a thing of judgment coming down, raining down on you. If we can instead say, I'm sorry for the way I handled it, then those doors of communication can reopen because we're starting to do repair.
Right. And I want to address, so kind of my thought process is I want to address the way we tend to naturally address it, right? And kind of the outcome of that. Because I first want to make sure parents understand that we have this belief sometimes that if we do shame them, if we do make them feel really bad about it, if we show our disappointment enough, our goal is to make them stop. We all have the same goal. So I think our approach is it's not out of, I want to make my kid feel better. It's, I want to make my kid stop. Right. And so this tends to be our go-to. And I want to first explain why that natural instinct, makes sense. There's a lot of fear, but what it actually does long term, does it stop our kid from looking at porn?
Mm. Yeah, that's such a powerful and important point for us as parents to recognize that no, it won't stop, because then what we need to do is, like, once the initial exposure or the initial going in search of pornography has occurred, we need to address if they're returning to it, because that's the real problem. The one time, oh, I saw porn on the bus, somebody showed it to me. Oh, I was looking up, I was Googling, Disney princesses to draw, and porn came up. Like, those things all could happen. But if your child is returning, that's the thing we want to address. And shaming them out of it isn't going to get them out of it, because really what we need to address is, okay, is it just because you're curious? Well, then let's talk about it. Let me answer all your questions. Is it because you're trying to numb negative feelings? Oh, we need to address not what you're doing with the negative feelings. We need to address the negative feelings. Are you doing it because you're bored, because you're lonely, because you're stressed? Like, these are reasons people use pornography, including teens. And so what we want to address is not shaming them out of it, but what is the reason that they would be going in search of pornography? Because that's the thing that will help them pull away and stop using it. It's getting to the heart issue, the core issue, not like, I'm just going to say, this is bad, this is wrong, don't do it. And if you do it, you're a bad person. Like, that's just going to actually add fuel to the fire and probably make them return, because then they have to numb those bad feelings that you're bringing up inside of them.
Exactly. I think when we overreact sometimes and our relationship's not great, all of a sudden it's saying, ooh, this pisses mom and dad off. So that makes it even more appealing. Or we haven't addressed why they're looking at it, like you said. So our solution is don't look at it. We're not solving their solution, their problem. So they go, but now they're building that level of shame and shame and shame. And that makes it more addictive, but they just go underground and they don't talk to us about it. And they just feel worse and worse, which disconnects us, right? And that kind of fuels the problem rather than resolving the problem. And I really wanted to make that clear, because I want parents to keep listening on what we should do rather than going, well, I'm just going to tell them not to watch it, because it does not work and it can make things worse.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. I just really want to hit that home, because that seems to be okay. So let's just do the first thing. We notice, first time ever, we see our kid has looked at porn. We find out. Either we overhear them talking about it, we see it in our history, or we walk in and they're looking at it. First time we know of. What do we do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I always say, first thing, check your face. If you can control the anger, the shock, the sadness, the fear, whatever it is, and keep your face calm. That's step one. And then keep your emotions calm, your voice, your body. I mean, I even think about it like when I was in labor with all of my kids, like practicing these relaxation techniques. And one of the first things that we learned was, I'm not kidding, relax your face, unclench your jaw, like feel like relaxation flow through your body. And that's so counterintuitive in a moment of extreme stress. But if you can, do it. And practice it. Really, like I say, like we need to prepare for these difficult moments in parenting. Um, and then, you have to address it. You have to talk to them, and it's uncomfortable. And if you as a parent need a minute, like you can take a minute, you
I was
can take
gonna
a day.
say, go in the
Yeah.
closet and go,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god," because you're probably
Exactly.
thinking that in your head. Get it out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's natural to
Take
work
your
this out.
time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Take a beat, take a day, come back and be like, and don't take a day like, I'm going to be talking to you about this tomorrow.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yes.
like that's not it.
Wait till
Like,
your mother comes home. Yeah.
right. Exactly. But then, yeah, you have to step into the difficult conversation, and you have to ask questions like, how, I see, however you found out, I see you've been using porn. I need to know some details, because this could impact your safety, your physical and emotional and mental safety. So I need to ask you questions. How long have you been looking at pornography? Can you, tell me where you have been looking at it? Like, what sites are you looking at? And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because chances are your teen is not going to want to tell you what they've been looking at. But
No.
you do need to find out to the best of your ability, because there's a lot of really dangerous and damaging porn out there. There's a lot of violent pornography. And if your child has been consuming that, that has an impact on them.
Yeah.
And you need to know so that you can get them the help that they need. So you need to ask, how long they've been using it, what kind of pornography they've been looking at. If you can't find that out from them, try to find out by looking at their history. And you need to talk about why. Like, hey, can I ask you, like, when do you use pornography? Do you use it when you come home after school because you had a bad day? Do you use it at night because you should be studying and you're stressed and you'd want to avoid studying? Are you using it because you're bored? You're lonely? Try to address the issue. Like, what is driving it if you can? And then ultimately, you need to address, like, what do we have to do to make changes so you can hopefully not access pornography anymore? I would always say, like, that part needs to come last. As parents, that's sometimes the first thing we want to do. We want to dole out the punishment and we want to make the changes. I'm going to put this filter on, blah, blah, blah. But I think that should come at the end, because we want to, like I said, establish connection and relationship and address, like, how to keep them safe.
Yeah.
And that's emotionally safe with us. And then we get to the end and we make those changes on the tech rules in our house.
Yeah.
That's how I think that first thing should go.
I think those questions are really important to understand, not because we need to understand them, because they need to understand them. This is not about us gathering information and intel so that we can make a judgment call on it and then know. This is about them understanding. So coming at it not from a place of interrogation, which is why teens shut down. They don't shut down because they don't want to talk about it or they don't feel safe. So if we're coming up, when did you look at this? Why did you? It's more of a, I get why. I get the curiosity. I understand.
Yes.
When I was your age, I was curious too. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned about your safety. So I just want to walk through stuff. So now it's more of a conversation, not an interrogation. It's curiosity, not criticism. And I think that approach matters. Those questions are core and key, but how we ask them makes all the difference in the world.
Yes. Yes. And I would say, I forgot to add that before you even ask the question, like, if you can establish physical touch, like give them a hug, reach out, hold them. And I would say, even like, to say, I'm sorry for what you've seen. Like, that could have been, like, scary or alarming, or like you could have like not really know what's going on with what you're watching. And I just want you to know, like, I care about you. That should, of course, come before you ask any questions, because like you said, we want to establish that relationship and let them know it's not broken because they've chosen to look at porn. Like, that doesn't have to break relationship, and it shouldn't.
Yeah, and it doesn't define the kid either. It's not like, "Oh my god,
Exactly.
my kid." And I think the other thing with where you are going with that too is that establishes this sense of they get me, they're not judging me, they're on my side, and it's now us against the porn, not us against our kid and
Yes.
porn, right? So we
Yeah.
wanna establish, and I think also really understanding what they are seeing in their from their perspective. Like, what are there questions about it?
Mm.
And I know this is uncomfortable, but do you have questions about that? What do you think this is? And I think that's, instead of going into a lecture, asking them what they think instead of assuming what they think.
Yeah, and I think too, for because pornography use is so normalized in teens, that they accept it and they don't really question it. Lots of kids are not asking questions. They're just accepting it. I remember the first time I spoke to a group of teens, and they were shocked when I told them that pornography actually causes harm to the person who uses it, and to the people, often to the people who are making it.
Yes.
And they were shocked. They had no idea that pornography was connected to things like sex trafficking and sextortion, and physical. It physically impacts the body and the brain. They were shocked because, again, it's so normalized and no one's talking to them about it. They said to me, "No one's ever talked to us about this before." They were shocked, and it was a light bulb moment, because then they're like, "Oh, well, maybe I don't want to use this, even though everybody says I should and everyone else does. Maybe it's not good for me." So if, as parents, we can approach it not from, "You're a bad person because you use this," but, "Hey, it's bad for you
Yeah.
and I care about you and I care about other people too," then that is a very different approach. And I think we really need teens to know the truth about the damage pornography can do. And so they need to know, like, "I care about you. This isn't good for you. That's why we want to address this."
Yeah, and I think, again, making that a conversation, not a lecture, because the second we
Hmm.
start lecturing, our kids immediately power down. It's like,
Yep.
we're not hearing it. But if we're having a conversation, it's like, even, how do you think these people feel creating this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's look, who is this person? Let's go figure out who this person is as a person. Because I think pornography, it objectifies and doesn't create an actual human being. And then what I end up seeing too, and the danger of this, is when we don't make them human, kids then take that. And this is the other thing that scares me about pornography, and why we want to address it the right way, is that kids then think that's normal. And I've seen kids asking other kids and expecting them to perform the same acts, like asking a 14-year-old girl to perform the same acts that they just saw a porn star doing, because they think that's normal. Um, Getting addicted to porn. And so they can't actually have their own romantic relationships because their expectation is not in, not realistic.
Yeah, it's not real.
So how do we create
Mm.
conversations, and what are the exact things that we want to not lecture? I'm going to reiterate that a million times. Have a conversation about, and ask them about, or research together.
Oh, I love this. I'm so glad you're talking about this. And I would say it needs to be conversations, lots of them, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So many conversations, and not in the moment of discovery. This needs to be occurring before or after, like that you're talking about this stuff. And I think,
Greta, I want to step in really
yes,
quick just to clarify one thing, and then I want to keep going.
yes.
This is not, you see them do porn and that's all you talk about now for the next 3 weeks. That's not what Greta is saying at all.
That's,
Can you
that's
clarify
true.
that for us? Because that's where things are going
Yes.
to go. I know.
Yes, don't do that. In fact, like, kind of dial it back a little in the aftermath of discovery. I'm just saying that we need to be having conversations with our kids throughout their middle school and teen years about what pornography is, that it's dangerous, and we need to talk about those very things that you brought up. Like, "Hey, have you ever heard of objectification?" you're at the dinner table,
Yeah.
you're driving and you see a billboard where clearly objectification is happening. And you just ask, like, have you guys ever heard of objectification? And they're going to be like, no. And then you tell them, and you don't make it a lecture. It's just a conversation. You could ask some questions like, hey, objectification is, turning a person into an object. So they are no longer a person, but they're a thing that you can use for your own, purposes. Can you think of examples of where that's happened? Can you, so I think conversations like that, articles that you can be like, hey, I was reading this article today. I mean, I'm famous for this in my family. And yes, my kids have rolled their eyes at me for years. Yes, they will be like, oh my gosh, mom, do we have to talk about porn again? But you know what? They are so literate in all of the things about pornography because we've just had conversations. We talk about it. I say, I read this article. What do you guys think? Or, hey, there's this video I saw that talks about this. Or we're watching Captain America. And there's that scene in Captain America where, he's all of a sudden, he went from being this puny guy that nobody likes, especially not the girls, to being this totally ripped, hunky guy. And the woman in the movie can't help reach out and touch his chest. And I think that's a really great scene because it shows it's not just women who are objectified, men are objectified too. Mm-hmm. And just being totally annoying to my children and pausing the movie, be like, oh my gosh, what's happening right here? Almost to the point of, in our family, at least, it's a joke, but also they know it's safe.
They know it.
Like they know we can talk to mom because she talks to us and we're not embarrassed. I will ask questions. I'll be like, hey, has anybody ever sent you, a nude? Has anyone ever tried to sext you? What would you do if it happened?
Yeah.
Just straight up asking them questions. And sometimes they will be like, oh my gosh, what, mom? But a lot of times they're like totally willing to engage in the conversation because it's not scary. It's just, we're talking about real life, just like we would talk about what's for dinner.
Yeah. And when we're not freaking out about it, we're not saying it's okay. We're making it safe to talk about it. I think that's the difference too. We're not going, oh yeah, whatever. We're communicating the concerns about it, but not in a, we can't talk about this stuff. And I get it. So many people are really, really uncomfortable about this topic and any topic to do with this, right? Like we're cool with our kids seeing people have their heads severed and blood squirting out, but God forbid somebody, gets naked or kisses even on screen. We're like all squeamish, which to me is like so backward, but whatever.
Yes.
Cover
your eyes.
Save the natural stuff, and we're good with the stuff that's completely barbaric. But okay. But I think that's, again, how we grew up, believing that this is shameful. The feelings, the curiosity, none of that shameful. What is the problem is how it is portrayed and the resource that they're getting the information from, because it's fake information.
Yes. And that is a great conversation. Like, hey, did you guys know porn is not real? Because again, if it's normalized amongst their peer group, they believe it's real. They don't know. There are drugs in use. There's lighting, there's directing, there's actors, they're actors. There's, all of it is fake. And I would say the vast majority of teens would have no idea.
No.
That's what's going on, that there's coercion, that there's so much stuff that they don't understand about what's going on in a pornographic movie. They have no idea. And I think they need to know, because they need to know this isn't real. So I shouldn't expect it in my own life. Like you said, a 14-year-old asking another 14-year-old to do something they saw in a porn movie. Like, not only is that wildly dangerous, but it's absolutely untrue, because what they're doing is consuming something that isn't real and expecting, oh, this is reality and I want it to be my reality. It's dangerous. It's irresponsible. So our kids need to know those truths, as uncomfortable as it is. Like, wouldn't we rather them know the truth from us than to just hear from their friends, watch stuff, Google it, and that's their source of information? That's absolutely not the truth.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's important to step back and go, if you're thinking this is not my kid, stop it. you've got to assume it is your kid, because pretty much every kid, I mean, unless you're like that 1%, I don't even know if that's the right, I'm just making that number up, right? Kids are exposed to this. It's everywhere.
And even if it's not your kid at 14, it could be your kid at 18. It could be your kid at 20.
Correct.
So you could be like, yeah, you're right. My 14-year-old isn't watching this, but your kid's not going to be 14 forever. They could be 20 someday. Well, they will be 20 someday.
They will.
And so yeah, you have to address it. You're right. You're absolutely right.
And that's a hard thing. So what are your recommendations again? Because you talk about having the conversations, and I think you already hit on this, is kind of like bringing it up when it kind of naturally occurs. But how do we get ourselves in that right frame of mind? Because I'm going to guess parents are like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then the moment comes and like, I can't do it. I can't do it. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? I can't do it. And then the time passes because I've been there. Right. So how do we prep for this type of conversation so we're ready when the opportunity comes up?
Well, I think for me, it was really helpful to learn about the topic myself. So began by, reading books, studying websites, listening to podcasts just like this one, where I'm getting examples of what those conversations sound like, so that I could say, okay, I can imagine myself in this scenario. Oh, that's something I haven't talked to my kid about. I should. And then I think another thing that's really helpful is to have almost like a checklist, whether that's a real checklist. Like I have, like in my book, like a list of things parents should talk to their kids about. Or it's just in your head, but it's like, okay, well, does my kid know what sexting is? Do they know how to respond if they get a sext? Do they know how to respond if someone asks them for a nude? Okay, that's first on my list. And maybe that conversation is going to be a little easier than talking about, like pornography is fake and what's going on in a pornographic movie. Like that might be like a conversation that's going to come later. You have to work your way up to that. That's fine. They need to know how to respond if they get a request, if someone sexts them, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's your first conversation. But I think as parents, like having an understanding of the world their kids are living in. So reading and learning about the culture your kids are living in, what they're being exposed to, what they're hearing from their peers and from Google and from TikTok. That's where you start, and that's where you begin to learn. And then you figure out like, okay, well, these are things they're encountering, and I want them to know what to do. I want them to know that if it happens to them, I'm on their side.
Yep.
Like that's a huge part of that conversations. It's not just, has anyone ever sexted you? Okay, here's what you do. It's, has anyone ever sexted you? If they do, here's what I want you to do. Come tell me right away. I will be a safe place. That could be a dangerous situation, and I want to keep you safe. Yeah. So if you frame it with, I'm doing all these things because I care so deeply for my kid. I want to keep them safe. I want to help them navigate these uncharted waters. And then figuring out what are the things I need to talk to them about. That's a great way to begin.
Yeah. And when you say you're going to be safe, please be safe. Because I also have talked to a lot of teens whose parents have promised to be safe, have trusted them, and then it all backfired on them. And guess what? There's no trust anymore. So we've got to be safe when we say that, even when we're freaking out, because this is so critically important. And I want to go back to, because you said already, and I want to address this, because parents are thinking going, I've already messed up. Mm-hmm. I've already gone off on them. I've already lectured. I've already taken everything. I've already done this in the way you're now telling me I shouldn't do it. Crap. So what do we do now?
Well, again, I think that repair piece is so critical. And if you think about your life as a parent, there's been many other times, not just about this, where you've freaked out about, they spilled milk at the table, they threw up in the back of the car, and they missed, they missed the bucket that you handed them, or the plastic bag, and they, got it on their sister, and you freaked out. Like, it happens as a parent, but we don't say, oh, I messed up one time and it's over. We say, I'm going to repair. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to admit I was wrong. I'm going to ask them to give me another chance. And that's what we have to do as parents. We have to take the humble route, and we have to say, I did not handle this well. I would like to handle it better next time. Will you forgive me? What could I do differently? How could I help you better? Because I didn't help you last time. That goes a long way.
Yeah.
It really does. And one mess up or 20 mess ups doesn't mean the end of your relationship with your kid, but it will damage if you don't come to them with humility and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Will you forgive me?
Yeah.
What can I do different next time?
I am going to say if it's 20 of the same exact mess ups, that will damage. Because if our go-to is I'll mess up, then forgive, you got maybe two of those. And then
yeah, that's true.
But 20 different mess ups
over the course of a whole childhood.
and we're going to do more than that. Let's be real. Yeah. And I think I also like to use those moments when I mess up to dig into my empathy towards my teen who also messes up. And I always say this. I told my teen I would get upset with her when she messes up when I stop messing up, or I will get upset with her when she makes a bad decision when I stop making bad decisions. She is safe. I make bad decisions daily, so she's got no worries about me. We talk about it. I don't ignore it, but I don't judge and get mad at her for it. That's just silly. It's silly to get mad at a bad decision, right? It's more about understanding and helping them make better decisions moving forward. And that's not done by shaming them for bad decisions they made in the past.
Yeah, because I look at myself as a teen all the time as I'm parenting my own teens. And I'm like, yeah, I remember being just like this. And if we can I would say that's another great tool as parents. If we can step back and remember ourselves as teens, then we could have a lot more empathy for our own teens. I will say that's a lot of parents, though, they'll think back to themselves as teens and the, foolish decisions that they made. And they're like, well, that's why I have to talk to my kid about this. I don't want them to be like me. And it's like, we can't control that. Like and that shouldn't be the thing that drives us to be hard on our kids.
Yeah.
Instead, we should set that aside and say, or take it to therapy and say, okay, I just remember feeling just like you. Yeah. And I know what you're experiencing and I want to be here for you in it because I remember it was hard.
Yeah, there's so many good pieces of that I just want to make sure we're calling out. The first one is, yes, remember what it felt like. And I will say a lot of parents kind of glamorize or glorify. I hear a lot of people go, I would never have talked to my parents that way. Yeah, you did. You did. I would never. Yeah, you did. Right. So we were not perfect kids. But going back to the feeling of it and what you needed, how did you react when your parents treated you that way? Did that make you trust your parents more or distrust them? Right. So I love that. And then tying that into empathy with your kid. I get it. This is hard. I hear you. That does not coddle them. That teaches them emotional intelligence and creates resilience so that when they do see difficult stuff, which they're going to, porn, a lot of other stuff, they don't freak out. They go and look at it and they're able to step back and go, okay, I'm going to start thinking about this critically because we've taught them how to.
Yeah. And if we can even, especially take that idea of, I know this is hard, to take that into the realm of pornography, screens, tech, whoa, that is, I think such a huge shift because as parents, we are not always recognizing how hard it must be to be growing up in this world.
So
we did not grow up in a world like this. We don't understand fully what they're dealing with, what they're walking through. It must be so hard.
Yeah.
And if we can come at it from that perspective and say to our kids, wow, this is stuff that I never had to deal with as a kid, as a teenager. This is a hard landscape for you to grow up in. I want to help you to the best of my ability as you navigate this. And we're figuring it out together because it's new to me too. that's such a different posture than you shouldn't do this. I'm frustrated with you. Blah, blah, blah. It's very different. And I think that's a really powerful, just a powerful shift in our perspective as parents. And it's one that we should really work on having towards our kids.
100%. I always liken it to when we're not on opposite sides, we're going to sit on the bench beside them and look out towards the view with them. So we're joining their perspective and we're their teammate. We're helping them. We're not the opposition. And I think in adolescence, we establish ourselves as the opposition when we think they're making us the opposition, but we're establishing ourselves as the opposition. They want a teammate. They want us on their side. And so if we're not, that's on us.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear sometimes, but the beautiful thing about this is we have all the power to get on the same side. That's on us too. That's amazing. That's great. If we're not disconnected, we have all the power to make that happen.
Yeah, definitely.
And when we're sitting on the same side with them, when they encounter things as difficult and challenging and scary as pornography, we know we can work it through and we're not freaked out that that everything is blown up and everything. We can work through this. And that's the really powerful thing.
Preach it. I love it.
That's what I do. So Greta, what is one thing you want to make sure parents walk away with from this episode?
I would say, you have to talk to your teens about hard things.
Yeah.
And
before it happens.
Oh, yes. That's exactly, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
And ideally, I love it because we're tracking with each other so well. I feel like we totally are speaking the same language. You want to talk to them ideally before ever you have the conversation of you've seen pornography, like to bring up these conversations ahead of time so that it's just a norm in your house. We talk about difficult things and we don't do it because we want to catch you or because we want to lecture you, but because we love you, we care about you, and you're growing up in a hard world and we want to be on the same team as you do it.
I love that. That is so powerful. And that's the biggest takeaway. So Greta, how do people find you?
Well, you can find me at my website, gretaeskridge.com. I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is just greta.eskridge. And then you can find my books anywhere books are sold. I'm all over the place. So check me out.
What are the name of your books?
My first book is called Adventuring Together, and it's for parents to create connection with their kids through adventure. My next one is a book for kids. It's called 100 Days of Adventure, and it's for them to invite their parents into connection through adventure. And then my last book just came out a few months ago, and it's called It's Time to Talk to Your Kids About Porn. So I would say it's a great resource if you're trying to figure out how to have this conversation. I have actual scripts in the book, and I have, conversation starters. It is a goldmine of information for you to begin having conversations from like elementary all the way through the end of high school.
That's amazing. That is so important, and it's so helpful to have scripts. So because parents just are for lack of words, so that is wonderful. So that resource is out there. I will link to it. I will have all that in the show notes so people can find you. Greta, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. I think parents feel a little bit more relaxed about this, hopefully a little bit. At least we know what to do now.
Yes, we do. We can do it. Yes. We really can.
And that's a wrap. Thank you, parents, for taking time out of your busy day to listen in. I appreciate you. If you found the episode enlightening, please like, review, and share with a friend navigating the teen years. Until next time, stay curious. Remember, there's always more to the story than what you see.